Good morning, everyone. Today I'm joined by Dr. Erika Cohen-Derr, our Assistant Vice President in Student Affairs. And Erika, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to be together, and I'm grateful to you for the exceptional work you've done this fall to support all of our students. And before we begin, I'd like to note that while this video will be posted several days after Election Day, we recorded this conversation prior to November 3rd, and our discussion won't reflect the specific events of Election Day. So let's get started. Erika, you've led our student affairs team through a time of many challenges this year. Can you tell us how you've approached your work this fall? What have been some of the lessons, some of the successes in terms of how to support students through the challenges that we've faced this year as a university community and as a national and global community?
Well, President DeGioia, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to join you in this forum. I've enjoyed the videos and getting to hear from members of our community, and I'm really honored to be included. And so I appreciate the invitation and your leadership over the last 6+ months. It's just been really comforting to be connected to Georgetown and to be part of the work that we're doing together collectively.
Thank you.
To navigate this uncertain time. For me, I think every day seems to hold lessons, right? But I think the most important one, and the one that sort of guides me in my work in general, is to meet students where they are. I've been so amazed by their creativity and their care for one another and the approach that they take to maintaining their connections and their shared experience when we don't have the physical hilltop to connect us, right? Unite us. So just trying to listen to student voices and center those student voices at this time of change between the pandemic, the anti-racism work that's happening throughout our country, conditions politically in our country. It's a lot to manage. When I think about some of the successes, I'm reminded of those days that we were together back in August, where we were celebrating new student orientation and welcoming new Hoyas into our community, and really having to do that in different and creative ways. When I came to Georgetown, as you know, I came as the director of new student orientation. And so NSO is near and dear to my heart, and to see how colleagues like Matt Barnes and Aisha Dose and Ish Sumra and all of my partner colleagues throughout student affairs and dean's offices and faculty, everybody really pulled together for NSO, and especially the students, the NSO coordinators, the orientation leaders, all those involved in the pre-orientation programs. The way that they were able to adapt and create a truly welcoming experience, I think, for our new students was critical.
Yeah. Now, over the course of your 15 years at Georgetown, you've done remarkable work to support the leadership development of our students. Can you speak to what leadership development looks like this year in a virtual learning environment?
Well, there are no shortage of leadership challenges this year, right? So we've got our work cut out for us. It requires shared vision, it requires new ideas, persistence, resilience, good communication, motivation, presence with one another, all the core values that leadership that students are demonstrating every day. But now we have to demonstrate them in different ways, maybe more intentionally. I think about some of the work that my colleagues do, the team in the student centers, where they had a really intentional staff culture among the student staff there, and how the student staff have really continued to stay connected to one another and to care about, the hilltop and how we're adapting and responding to what's needed. I think about the folks in campus recreation who want us to keep our bodies moving and stay active, and so have brought a lot of the Yates classes, many of which are delivered by students online, to Facebook or to Instagram. I think about student organizations, GUSA, student government, the different ways that they've been really thoughtful at enlisting new members and empowering people to take on different projects and translating and converting elections, GUSA elections, into a virtual platform. I think about the group, one of our just terrific groups on campus, Gives, Georgetown Individuals Vocal and Energetic for Service, that practice random acts of kindness and go out of their way to create ways to affirm the values of our community. So in student affairs and with our partner offices like the Center for Social Justice, we often refer to a model of leadership development it's called the social change model. And it looks at leadership development in kind of 3 phases: at the individual level, at the group level, and at the community level. So at the individual level, we talk about identity. So many of our student engagement experiences, from, again, the orientation sessions, group leader trainings, sometimes retreats like the Escape program, it starts with a focus on our individual selves, right? Our identities, our personal identities, our social identities, our individual groups and gifts and talents, our natural strengths. And so we build in a lot of introspection, which I think can be done effectively, in Zoom. It sometimes requires us to go into breakout rooms or really structure those interactions intentionally. We talk about groups and how those groups share responsibility among members, how students build trust with one another, how they hold one another accountable, and how they, productively work towards their goals so that they can share in the celebrations and learn from some of the challenges. And then at the community level, I think about how participation in community, the civic engagement, again, whether that's voting in the GUSA election or the national election, showing up for a town hall, or just engaging someone else in conversation about what's going on in the world, those are acts of leadership. This summer, when we as a country were facing a real reckoning over racial injustice after the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and others, we saw a number of student groups make statements and commitments in support of the movement for Black lives and against systemic racism. And while those statements certainly aren't enough without action, the fact that many of those groups were wrestling with their role in the larger community and their responsibility to be anti-racist, those are acts of leadership, and they really matter. And so I'm just impressed every day with the way our students demonstrate leadership and develop that leadership. And I'm proud of the work that we as an institution do to help make meaning of that as those events and experiences are unfolding.
For so many of our students, an important part of their formation takes place outside of the classroom. And I know Student Affairs plays a vital role in supporting those opportunities. How have you seen our students pursue that engagement outside of the virtual classroom this year?
Well, again, the creativity is just really impressive. So we've launched a new platform this year. It's called Campus Groups. Not sure if I know you have a very busy schedule, so you may not have had a chance to log into it, but I would encourage anyone to log in, georgetown.campusgroups.com. And this is a new platform that shows all the student organizations that students can join and host lots of events and ways to really get involved in the community. Georgetown Program Board, I would hold them up as a terrific example, GPB. They have been prolific in their programming. They work with faculty. They just, I think last night, had faculty reading spooky stories for Halloween. They host open mic nights, and they've done a great job of converting one of my favorite traditions, which is the Mr. Georgetown pageant. That's been happening outside of the classroom. So the things that we look forward to, the traditions that we anticipate every year. One that I think you and I share is every year in November, we would be getting ready to head off to Rangeela and Gaston Hall. And of course, can't do that this year, unfortunately, but the South Asian Society has been really creative, and they have brought Rangeela Reimagined to social media. And so there's a TikTok competition. I don't pretend to understand exactly how TikTok works, but I think the videos are great. And it's a way to really celebrate and share in the South Asian dance tradition and share that culture among our students and, hold on to those traditions that really matter to us.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. In addition to your leadership in student affairs, you serve as chair of the Georgetown Women's Alliance, or GWA. Can you tell us about the sort of work that GWA is engaged in this year and the role you think the Women's Alliance plays in our community?
Sure, yeah. Georgetown Women's Alliance is like my personal co-curricular involvement because it falls a little bit outside of my typical work in student affairs. And GWA is an organization run by volunteers from around the university community, primarily staff, but also faculty and students, grad students and undergraduate students. We have representatives from all 3 campuses in DC. We've got a partner group at our campus in Doha, Qatar. And our mission is really to create and sustain an environment at Georgetown where those who identify as women or those who are committed to gender equity in general can grow, learn, and thrive. We take an expansive and inclusive view of gender, and we've got lots of supporters from across the gender spectrum. So we have a number of pillars, and those pillars are networking, development, professional development, mentoring, and accompaniment. And those are the ways that we sort of organize our work. So we have programs that support these pillars, like a monthly book discussion group, a committee dedicated to leadership development, a mentoring program that pairs folks across the university to really help and provide a sounding board and expand the connections that our members have. And we are an inclusive group, and we would welcome anybody to come join us. I would also say that GWA is committed to taking a critical look at our organization and at feminism in general, and engage in the work of anti-racism and really advancing intersectional feminism. So this commitment has challenged us to rethink our programming, to center the voices of women of color and Black women specifically, and to be really intentional that anything that we commit ourselves to should be uplifting others and working to dismantle structures or systems of bias. So we have our work cut out for us. But again, we welcome inclusion, and we welcome women and supporters of gender equity from across the university.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership there. So much of your work is about connection, about keeping the members of our community connected to each other, whether through programming or mentorship or other forms of engagement. How do you think our community can stay hopeful and connected through the challenges of this season?
Well, I really believe in social connectedness as a way, as a form of self-care, as a way of strengthening just, not just our individual relationships, but our community as a whole. It's the way that we're going to make it through this difficult time, in my view. We need durable, supportive relationships. We need to feel seen and valued for exactly who we are. And that takes leadership and compassion and care for one another, the values that we see in our community every day. It can be harder to see them sometimes when we're not physically together, but they are there, right? And so some of the ways that I see them, again, the work of student groups. Many student groups this year have tried programming and they're repeating it. So I think it's got to be successful. It's called speed friending. And it's, lots of interconnections and small Zoom breakout rooms to introduce Hoyas to other people that they may or may not have met before. This SFS Academic Council has tried this. GPB does this kind of programming a lot. So there's lots of opportunities for their small conversations. The orientation advisors held reunion gatherings over the past couple of weeks. So new Hoyas get the chance to reconnect with people they may have met already. One thing that has been a great gift to me this semester is I've been co-chairing a group called the Student Experience Committee with Dr. David Edelstein from the college. And it's a fairly large group for a committee, but we have colleagues from across all the 4 undergraduate dean's offices, the provost office, many departments in student affairs. And we have a group of 20 to 30 students that join us regularly to kind of share the experiences that they're having. And so as we listen to their voices and think about the ways that we retain the true unique character of a Georgetown education, I'm just so impressed at the ways that they center and value the relationships and the connections with each other and with the folks there. And one of the students from that group, his name is Michael Passimio. He's a junior in the SFS. He told me a story about how he just kind of, after a class, he'll just pick up his phone, and FaceTime or call somebody randomly and just kind of do some cold calling of his friends just to stay connected and in conversation with people. And I thought that was really impressive. Not everybody can do that. I know that sometimes the more introverted among us, and I would count myself in that group, it can feel a little scary to just pick up the phone and call somebody out of the blue. But I think that that's really where our connections come from. And they're so, the Hoya network is so durable, and our connections with one another can be so strong. And it's those kinds of chance interactions that can really add to that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making the time to be available for this conversation today. I'm very grateful to you. In closing, is there a last word you'd like to leave with the members of our community today?
Well, I have to say, first of all, I really appreciate the chance to be here and be in conversation with you, and again, for your leadership during this strange time. The Hoya network has been so important to me, and something that I just feel so grateful for. Father Bosco, I recall when he led us through an examine exercise at one of the early town halls as we were making sense of this experience. And I think he said to inhale gratitude and to exhale generosity. And I have that written down and on a note card in my desk area here. And the gratitude that I feel every day for the people that I've met through Georgetown, for this community, alums. I heard from a couple of alums today, one class of 2005, one from 2016. I mean, there's just the people that we connect with here are just incredibly special and generous to one another. And I'm grateful for that every day. And I hope that others feel that too.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I remain deeply grateful to you for your many efforts on behalf of our young people and on behalf of our entire university community. And I look forward to being with all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you. For every Hoya, everywhere.